Hello, welcome back to my coverage of the 2026 Atlas Mountain Race. This is day 2, so let's head over to the tracker and have a quick look and see what's been going on. And as you can see, Victor Bozzoni has taken the lead. So he's taken the lead from Sebastian Trimborn. Sebastian's been basically leading since CP1, but he seems to have slowed a little now, and Victor has overtaken him. We'll go into a bit more details of that in a little while. And currently, Cynthia Carson is the fastest woman, and she's ahead of Kerry McPhee. So I shall go into a bit more detail as to what's happened and have a little look at the route and where the riders are. But before I go any further, I just need to thank my sponsors. So as you know by now, Enduro Bearings are sponsoring this coverage. Now they do a range of bearings, bottom brackets, jockey wheels, things like that. So yesterday I talked about the XD15 bottom brackets as their bearing type, and they also do the Max Hit bottom brackets, which are stainless steel. And the really cool thing about these is that rather than having an aluminium cup with a bearing pressed in, the outer race of the bearing and the inner race are all one piece. There's nothing pressed in. Makes them really strong. It means there's more room for bigger ball bearings. They're made out of 440C stainless steel, so super high quality. And yeah, I've been running one of these on my winter bike, and yes, they're great. They're basically bearings for life. So yeah, well worth checking out Enduro Bearings if you want to upgrade your bike when your bearings run out or wear out the next time. As well as Enduro Bearings, also have Bucks and Box. They've come on as a new sponsor for this year, and they're sponsoring this Atlas coverage. So Bucks and Box, as you probably know if you've seen the first couple of episodes, they make premium metal bike boxes in the UK. They've got a couple of different models. So if I scroll down here, you can see the different sizes. So the Tourmalet bike box is their smallest one. So essentially that is probably similar to a traditional bike bag kind of size. You'd have to take the wheels off and the handlebars off. Then they have the Von 2 boxes, which means you can basically turn the handlebar sideways without having to disassemble that. So there's the road version and also a mountain bike version. Obviously mountain bikes are a little bit longer. And then they've got time trial specific boxes, so you can keep all the aero bars on, and like a full-size mountain bike box. So plenty of flexibility, really good products, really high quality. I've got mine on its way. There's normally a 4 to 6 week delivery time because they're all made to order, and you can customize them, get them painted in different colors. So yeah, check out Bucks and Box. I'll put the link up on the screen, and a big thank you to those guys for supporting this coverage. Right, let's get back to the tracker and have a bit of a check in a bit more detail as to what's happened. Now, if I zoom out a little bit, I guess the big news at the moment is you can see just down here, if I zoom in, a lot of riders are off route. So you can see that, well, basically the vast majority of riders now are running down the main road rather than this pass here, which drops into the Dadez Gorge. Now, the reason for that is ridiculously high winds. So there's been extremely high winds up on this pass, and for safety, Nelson Trees, the race director, has basically allowed riders to drop down on the main road rather than cross this pass here and risk the high winds. I'll come on to some Instagram stories in a while, just showing the sheer strength of the wind. Like, people were unable to ride. So yeah, so that's if anyone's looking at the tracker and is wondering, that's what's happened there. And this is just the official kind of notification from Nelson. So I'll just read it out. If anyone's listening on the podcast, or if anyone's out there racing and haven't found this out yet, this is for you. So I've been made aware of a very strong wind on the race route near kilometre 242 on the way out of Tamatachuti. You may detour along the main road via Tinghir to reach CP1, and also the CP1 cutoff has been extended to midnight instead of 4 p.m. So there's a lot of riders outside the cutoff pace. If you're looking at the tracker, you may see the snail. Where is the snail? So the snail, here we go. The snail is basically the slowest allowed time to meet the cutoff, and a lot of people were falling behind that. I think the first night in the extreme weather conditions up high on the plateau meant that a lot of people stopped, and rather than just basically everyone finished outside the time limit. The time limit has now been extended, so riders have until midnight. As I record, it's around 4 p.m, so there's plenty of time. So I would suggest that most people are on this plateau now would be able to drop down on the road and make it to the checkpoint in time and remain in the race. So yeah, it's nice to see some flexibility from Nelson, who organises the Atlas Mountain Race. So further up on the race, so the riders have now passed through this remote section. So if I just zoom in a little bit here, where are we? Lost my bearings a little bit. So Avra, yeah. So this section here from Avra through to basically not far off CP1 up here there's very little in the way of resupply. I'll head over to Riber GPS as it shows it in a little bit more clarity. So this is the original race route now. So this new section, there was a new start this year, as I've already discussed, in Beni Mellal. So up till CP1, it was basically a new section, and then this section through here, you can see the checkered. The checkered colouring on the profile there, and the route denotes off-road. There's basically no resupply, so it's about 150k now in this edition of the route without any resupply. And the first kind of resupply you see is Avra, so you just have to go off the route here. It's about half a k into this town. I wonder actually if I go on Google Satellite on Riber GPS here, you might even be able to see the shops. So this line of buildings here is a row of shops. I think it's probably this one here. So a lot of riders, I mean, this shop does amazing business during the Atlas Mountain Race because riders haven't been able to resupply for a long time. There's barely any water. There is a fountain at some point, or like a tap at some point up in this valley here, but apart from that, there's very little. So yeah, that building, or that cafe there, definitely does good business on the Atlas Mountain Race, and also there's a place to sleep behind the shop, or some people just sleep in the actual shop itself in the cafe. I've stopped in there for an omelette before last year actually, and people were sleeping there at the time. And the reason I've kind of brought that up is because basically Sebastian was leading the race from CP1 all the way through till probably a couple of hours ago. So I said yesterday that I didn't know much about Sebastian Trimborn this is, but then I've realised I do know a little bit because I was in the Hellenic Mountain Race with him last year, and he ended up scratching. So basically I think he is relatively new to this ultra endurance stuff. At the Hellenic Mountain Race last year, he went out way too hard chasing the leaders, and his inexperience basically showed by the end. He ended up scratching. I think he basically went out way too hard and then had a few issues with resupplying and basically totally blew and ended up scratching. I wonder if he's learnt his lessons or not. It does seem to have faded a little bit. And the reason I suggest that maybe inexperience is playing a little bit, or going to play a bit of a part here as well. It's not just Sebastian, by the way. But also Radoslav Globicki, a Polish rider. Excuse my Polish pronunciations or lack of there. So these guys have basically pushed through and haven't really stopped that much. However, certain riders stopped in Avra, so in that cafe. Victor Bozzoni, his dot stopped for a long time there last night. Who else stopped there? I'm pretty sure Rob Britton stopped there for a while. Thomas Beret maybe had a small stop. So if I bring up the graph section of map progress, you can see the run or the sort of the stop time. So Victor, he's taking the lead again now. But if you follow his blue lane, it's not super clear on this, but you can see he stopped relatively early here. Sebastian did stop, but he stopped a little bit later, and I think he ended up bivvying. I saw on his Instagram that he'd ended up bivvying out. I just think it shows quite a mature ride from Victor. So he obviously stopped quite early on in the evening, but I don't know for sure, but I suggest that he probably stopped in that cafe and had a 3 or so hour sleep, maybe even 4 hours, probably a resupply, ate a meal, then slept for 3 hours in that cafe in the warm. Whereas Sebastian, I think, pushed on a bit further and bivvied out, which is not always the best idea, especially after such a hard start as well. You know, these riders would have burnt a hell of a lot of energy going over that really high pass. So I kind of think my gut feeling is that the Victor's playing it quite smart. That's not to say that he's not going to crack a later date, but I suspect Sebastian maybe is pushing a little bit deeper than Victor. You can see Chris Melman, he's up in 4th now, so I'll come on to a funny story when I go through the social media in a while. If you look at his line, he doesn't seem to have stopped very much as well. So I think at the moment he's in 4th, but I suspect that might sort of bite him a bit later on. Atlas really gets people. The riders are just about approaching CP2, and for me, the Atlas doesn't start until CP2. That's when people start to crack. And on day 3 of the race, we're going to see some big changes. It happens every single year, and just because you're leading at CP1 or even CP2 does not mean that you're in the position to be able to sort of win this race. So interesting to have a look. So Radoslav as well, he's had shorter stops. I think he might have stopped at that cafe as well, just judging by the kind of the stop line. I think quite a few riders stopped there. So yeah, definitely worth thinking about and looking at. Riders in this top 10 who are experienced. Thomas Beret, just need to be keeping an eye on him. He's my bet for a podium. I think he'll come strong in the last day. Mark Buchel, he's been 11th. So again, his experience, I'd expect to see him climb up the standings a little bit. Stephen Davis, he's not ridden this before. However, he's done TCR and a few things as well. So I've raced him myself. He's a pretty strong rider. Again, not experienced in the Atlas, and I think it is quite specific. And Rob Britton, we'll come on to him in a bit, but he stopped quite early on. If you see this blue line here, he stopped early on at CP1, and quite a big stop there. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to stop early and not dig too deep on the Atlas Mountain Race. Now, he did say that it was because of some knee issues, and he wanted to rest it. Well, that being the stories, I'll show you in a while. In actual fact, I'll dig it out now. Where was it? I think it was this one. So this is from the official Atlas Mountain Race Instagram, and it says checkpoint 1 officially opened this morning at 10 a.m. This would have been posted yesterday after I did my update, with Victor Bozzoni, Sebastian Trimborn arriving together 2 hours ahead of the race director Nelson Tree's noon prediction. 10 minutes later, Rob Britton was through the door. All three remarked how difficult the night had been. Victor had considered scratching. Sebastian had fallen in a river, soaking himself through and leaving his clothing frozen and a shifter stuck in the hardest gear. That might come back to bite him. And Rob had lost his light and called it the hardest night ride of his life. And also, just bear in mind that these are the top 3. These are the fastest, strongest guys who spent the less time up there. So just think how everyone else in the field feels as well. But the thing I wanted to highlight, so all 3 riders took their time to resupply and have a good meal, with Victor and Sebastian heading back out while Rob opted for some rest, hoping to nurse a sore knee back to better condition. So, Rob sounded like he was having knee issues on the first night. And just generally in my experience, knee issues are never really, sore knee is never, it's not the root cause. It's kind of like the symptom of a problem further up in your hips and lower back. If it was that cold up there was a lot of sustained climbing. If Rob was just getting cold and muscles get tight and things pull, it always kind of comes out in your knee. So sometimes just a bit of rest, just sitting down and not riding your bike for an hour, it does the world of good in these things. Just allows all your muscles to relax a bit and remove the pressure from your knee. And Rob's really experienced. He was pro for a number of years, so I suspect that he knows his body and knows when to rest. So my point is that forced rest early on could well pay him back later down in the race. We'll see, but I've been watching this race for a number of years now, and I've done it 3 times, and I just know that things do tend to fall apart for people after CP2. So we shall see. We shall see what happens. Right. So the riders now are on the section across to CP2. So there's a bit of a long road section out of Tasnacht. That's a good place to resupply. Some people sleep. So I suspect a lot of riders who come in sort of 3 or 4 hours time will be staying there. And then they drop down to CP3. So it's 4 o'clock now. they'll probably be getting there before it's dark, so that's going to lead, give them quite a long kind of night ride. In actual fact, it looks like they're through CP2 already, and again, Sebastian is now in the lead. So Victor was looking like he was going to be there first. I wonder if Victor's taking more time at checkpoints and Sebastian is just pushing through. Again, it kind of suggests that that Sebastian's pushing things a little bit harder than Victor. We shall see. It'll all get found out in the next days for sure. Chris Melman looks like he's just passed through, and Rob's in there too. Basically, there's now a big climb between Victor and Sebastian and kind of the rest of the field. So yeah, they are looking strong, but we've had people scratch with 50k to go out of the lead, or out of the racing for the lead. So yeah, anything can happen in the Atlas Mountain Race, which is why it's worth subscribing and tuning in for the next few days. Further back, as I mentioned, Thomas Beret, keep an eye on Thomas. He knows exactly how to ride this race. He'll finish strong for sure, and I would not be surprised if he's on the podium by the end of it. He's done it before. He can do it again. Max Rees, he's super strong. Floris, he was third at the Hellenic Mountain Race. I was only 25 minutes, 30 minutes behind him at the finish there. So I know from personal experience how strong Floris is. He's a really nice guy as well. And he went to the Olympics in Beijing, actually. He was telling me at the finish of Hellenic, he was a kayaker. So he's a super strong athlete. And he's actually a doctor now. And he was telling me in Greece that his training, he'd basically do a night shift at the hospital. Then he'd go out training the next day to simulate kind of the same as racing one of these ultra races. So yeah, really nice guy. And again, I suspect he's going to ride in quite a controlled manner. Cynthia, again, super experienced. She knows how to ride this race, and it looks like she's kind of got a gap on Kerry McPhee. There was a point earlier today where Kerry kind of caught up again. Again, Kerry is super strong. However, I suspect that experience will play a part in it, and Cynthia will probably have the edge because of that. But again, time will tell. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of an update. There's a few other names. Juan Antonio Fletcher, obviously his ex-pro, won stages in Tour de France. Really nice guy as well, and this is the first time he's done anything of this kind of length. So it'd be really cool to see how he goes as well. A couple of GCN presenters as well. Maxime Prieur, here he is up here. He's done in a couple of these events. Connor Dunn, where's Connor? I think I've highlighted him somewhere. He's still sort of coming through the remote section. So I'm sure there'll be some really good coverage on GCN after this race as well. So that's kind of a bit of an update of the dots at the moment. I'm just going to go back over to Ride with GPS, just show you what's coming up. Where are we now? Let's find CP2. We are Tasneck. So a lot of the riders have just come down this long straight road. I can probably just use the Google Man on here actually. If I zoom in a little bit. So yeah, this is just a fast straight road. It's one of the easier sections of the route. Google Man's not working for me. And then the riders go off road. And this section is not too bad. It's a relatively high pass, but it's not too hard. And then there's a pretty cool descent down to the CP here. And then you've got this off-road climb through here. You can see on the route profile it's not really that big. It can be a bit rough. And then quite a long road section. Not much in the way of resupply. There's a few towns. I think the riders going through early on will be okay. Then this long section off here, there's like a dried out riverbed the riders pass down. I bivvied out there last year. And then there's a good resupply here if the riders are in early enough. And then the old Colonial Road. Now this is where riders are going to start to crack. So I think once the riders are through this tomorrow, certainly once the top 10 are through this tomorrow, we will then have a much clearer picture of the overall. Let's just see what the wind's doing. I'll put the windy layer on Ride with GPS here. So this is available on the premium subscription. So I'll put a link on screen if you're kind of interested in this stuff. And you can see it's going to be a bit of a headwind. So yeah, it's not going to be super fast down there. And as you can see, obviously that the wind is quite strong. We've seen that already from the change of route. So yeah, it's going to be a blustery night out there, and it's not going to be super warm. I suggest if it's windy, it's just going to feel a bit colder, I would think, through the night, certainly. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be a fascinating race. I think there's a really good mix of experience, super strong guys who've raced in other events and maybe don't have the experience, and I think that mix is just going to make it absolutely fascinating dot watching. So I'm looking forward to bringing you reports for the next few days, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see them. Right, now let's just get on to the some social media. So this was a really nice post up from Albion Cycling. Obviously they sponsor the Atlas Mountain Race. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to play this cool little video. So this is a bit of a summary of the first night.
That mountain, like ice, like how treacherous! Oh my god! Yeah, that was.
Snow crashes?
No, but you could definitely. Or there's like river crossings where you go across and there's ice on both sides, just glacial, slick, clear ice. So that was also terrifying, but survived.
So yeah, that was Rob written there, just given his experience of the night, and terrifying, I think. And you see some of the photos out there. Then it rained and obviously froze straight over. Sketchy riding over that mountain last night. So this is just the post from yesterday from CP1 with the top 3 women. So Cynthia Carson was in first. That's Cynthia there in the photo, followed by Cristina Tamburini. So she's done this race before. So she was second in, but it looks like she's dropped off the pace a little bit throughout the day today. And then Kerry McPhee, there's Kerry there. So she's in second place. Again, she's quite experienced racing in the UK. The Highland Trail 550 is an event she's won. She's no stranger to these kind of more remote surroundings, and I suspect it being cold would have been to her benefit. We'll see how she sort of deals with the heat and the lack of food later on. Again, I keep saying it, but experience is pretty key in this particular event. And there's Christina there. So that's our top 3 women, and they're tracking within the top 20 overall. So really great to see. Further down, Thomas Beret, he's a guy that I keep sort of telling you about, given his experience. He's podiumed previously, and I think he's a benchmark for certainly kind of maybe not the win as such, but certainly second, third place, I think. This is a little reel that Thomas put out, so let's see what he said.
20h45 sur le vélo, 371 km. J'ai porté un peu ma croix, comme on dit. Quelle première journée, hein. On a commencé sous la pluie. La moitié de la nuit, il a fait bien froid et ça a été super dur. La seconde partie, depuis ce matin, ça va un peu mieux. Je suis en train de remonter petit à petit et c'était assez incroyable hier. Il y avait un monde fou dans les villages, les gens nous applaudissaient en passant et tout. C'était vraiment incroyable. C'était une journée qui a changé un peu la dynamique. C'était sur la route, ça a changé un peu la dynamique de course. Mais là, ça y est, enfin, on trouve les chemins. Donc la course commence vraiment.
So that's Thomas there, and as he says, the race really starts now. And for me, until you're kind of on the old Colonial Road section, it's not really begun. That's one of the rougher off-road sections. It's still all to play for. The tracker, the route tracker and the dot tracker is going to change a lot in the next 24 hours. That's almost guaranteed. This is from Chris Mellman. You may remember yesterday his free up had frozen solid. So he says, ended my first block, time for a nap, peed on my free up to melt it. Yes, it works. As I kind of said yesterday, I imagine he probably got water, or maybe the grease got really sort of sticky. But it sounds like he just weed on it, and obviously it's a bit warmer, and it melted whatever whatever was causing his free up to stick. So sometimes you've got to do what you've got to do on these races, and it's all about adapting and overcoming and moving on. And incidentally, if you're wondering what the kind of pretty standard food type is, you can see these round breads here. You'll pretty much find them everywhere in Morocco. But you know, that's what these riders are going to be are basically living on, and maybe a tagine, but you know, the calories are going to be coming from this bread. So as you can imagine, there's not much, which is why it makes this race pretty unique. And yeah, this is why there's cracks do appear quite quickly when they happen. And then this is Sean Alaba. So he's a little bit sort of further back. He's just on that diversion around the wind section. And if you're wondering how windy it was, this is how windy it was. So that looks pretty crazy. Blowing bikes over. It's like you can barely stand up. Look at that. So yeah, so that's Sean, and that's the win for you. So it's never easy. The Atlas Mountain Race always delivers something to make life difficult for you. So yeah, so that is my update for day 2. Still a lot to race for. The race is by no means settled yet. I think tomorrow we'll be talking about quite a different picture. So yeah, so join me again tomorrow for my next update. Thanks for watching. If you're new to this and you like what I'm doing, consider subscribing to my channel. And yeah, see you all again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.